So if you started off at, let's say, $4,000 a month, the likelihood of you scoring 10,000 is much earlier because that's just how it works.
What's up, everyone? You're about to watch an exclusive interview that I just did with a very special guest. And this guest has made over 10,000 ringgit a month in his dream job. And we talk about a lot of things in the show. We talk about how to land your first high-paying job, even if you don't have a lot of experience or a degree. We also talk about how to spend money on important things that will eventually end up making you more money, and how to live within your means and save the amount of money that you want to save. And the third thing we talked about is the beliefs and ideas we have about money that were most likely taught to us when we were much younger as kids, and how we overcame them throughout our journey in our careers. So I hope you enjoy the video. Stay till the end because the guest gives some really practical advice towards the end that you can implement today that will make a difference. So let's start the show, and I'll see you on the other side. Welcome to the TMF show. Today we have a very special guest joining us. Even though we just met a few weeks ago, I consider him a dear friend. And as a young millennial, he has a lot of stories and lessons to share with you. So I hope that you get tons of value from this video. And without further ado, I want to introduce you to our guest, Ben Sim. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Happy to be here.
All right, Ben. So for our audience tuning in, could you just explain a little bit about what you do and how you got into it?
Okay, so hey, Finance Nation. My name is Ben, as Edley mentioned earlier. I'm currently a senior sales copywriter at Mind Valley. I got there because I fell in love with online marketing. I decided I didn't like to play with platforms, and I just wanted to play with persuasion. So that's how I got there.
Awesome. So for our audience tuning in, could you explain a little bit more about what copywriting is and what you do on a daily basis? And some of our audience might be interested in these kinds of things, so it would be really helpful for them.
Okay, so how would I describe copywriting? I mean, Ellie, I think you know this as well. Okay, so copywriting is essentially persuasion in print. So if you are the kind of person who ever wanted to make a living as a writer, I can assure you this is probably one of the more simpler and easier ways to make a living as a writer. What you do is companies come to you and they want to sell more stuff to their audience. So let's say online. So they will come to you, they'll ask you, oh, can you sell this stuff to our audience? Then you'll devise up, oh, what should I write on the pages? What should I write on the emails? And that whole simple act of writing in a way to make people buy is copywriting.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And we talked about this the first time we met. It wasn't always marketing and copywriting. Before that, life plans for you were kind of different, and you went to university. Could you share a bit more about what your journey was like before you became a copywriter?
Okay. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people in the Finance Nation would agree with this as well. I grew up Malaysian. I grew up in Kuching, specifically Kuching, Sarawak. I grew up to parents of one is a nurse and the other one is an entrepreneur. My dad was a businessman selling water filters. So I always had a specific notion of what I should do when I grow up. I think everyone has heard the term before, which is study hard, get a degree, get a job, get a house, get married, have kids, the end. So I was just doing that. I was never unhappy about it, funny enough. Growing up, I never thought there was another option. I never looked at other people and thought, how come their lives are so much better? In a way, that was a testament to how good my parents were at shielding me from the outer world. So they did a very good job. I never thought I was poor. But once I came here to KL to study for my law degree, I started seeing different things. Suddenly, I noticed people here drove more Mercedes and BMWs compared to Kuching. People would drive Toyotas at most, in most cases. So I saw the difference right away. And as I was going through the law degree, I didn't like it. I honestly didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. And right after the final exam, I wanted to take some time to soul search. Came across a few videos online on YouTube, like how most people spend their time now at night. And I came across this guy called Ty Lopez, and also Tim Ferriss and Ramit Sethi, and that's what opened the entire world of online marketing to me.
Cool. I love Tim personally. I listen to his podcast and his books are great too. And some of the questions from this interview is inspired by Tim. Yeah. So
Okay.
it sounds like, you know, the real perspective change that came for you was the moment you moved to KL, to the city, and then you started seeing, what else is possible. Is that right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So you mentioned that you really got an epiphany, by watching YouTube videos, and you figured out that law wasn't for you, and you wanted to get into the world of marketing and really design your life. So once you had that idea and once you realized what was possible, what was your plan? Like from the day you realized that you wanted to do something else, like what did you do?
What did I do? Wow. Okay. Lovely question, by the way. I think, okay, first off, I need to settle something clear first. You cannot figure out whether you hate law just by watching a YouTube video. So it took me years to figure that out. First year, it was, yeah, it's okay. Second year, maybe not my thing. Third year, okay, this definitely ain't my thing. I sucked at studying it. I didn't even look forward to the internships I was going for. So that was a telltale indicator that this wasn't something I want to spend at least the next 5 years doing. But oddly enough, just a bit of a side note, if I passed my exams with flying colors, I probably would have still continued with it. The truth was, I only got third class honors. For my specific degree, if you got that, you couldn't sit for the bar exam. So it was a blessing in disguise. So it was kind of like the higher power saying that, hey, Ben, you never wanted to do law in the first place, so now you can't do it anymore. So go after your dreams. It felt like that. So once I discovered more or less marketing was what I wanted, doing my job search, I just started applying for marketing jobs. That was the first thing. I think everyone can agree that once you graduate from university, the first thing you think about is, can I get a job? How can I get a job? That's the only thing you think about. So that's exactly what I did. But I just had to focus on looking for marketing jobs that didn't suck.
And I think one of the questions or issues raised by a lot of our audience is, I don't have a degree in marketing, or I don't have a degree in something that I want to do. So, like they have this belief that they can't really do it because they don't have a degree from the university. So how did you overcome that? How did you get those marketing jobs without a degree and with minimal marketing experience?
The funniest thing I realized as I started applying for jobs was how irrelevant my law degree was. Although having a law degree does have that wow factor for some weird reason. I don't know why people think it's amazing though. Did you know that you just have to pass 2 subjects in your from 6 or A levels to be eligible to study for law? You don't have to be a genius to study the thing. So I don't understand why it was such a wow factor. So anyways, when I applied for jobs, the one positioning thing that I always did was I looked around. I noticed that everyone else had a degree, because the jobs I was applying for, usually people had degrees. And I looked around and I noticed that most of them were either preaching how good their grades were, or they were preaching about the stuff they did in university. I was in a relationship for the first time during my first year of university, so I never paid attention to co-curriculars, never did anything outside of studies, though I didn't study at all either. So I didn't pay attention to that. So my grades sucked. So what I did was, I told you I got third class honors, right? So in my resume, I wrote Bachelor of Laws honors, but I never said third class honors. If I said third class honors, people would think, oh, this guy sucks. But no, I just said honors. So immediately they assume, okay, this guy is not dumb. He's smart enough. Okay, good. Funny thing was, they never asked me about the freaking degree. They never asked me about the grades either. And the second thing I did for positioning was, I was writing a blog at the time. It was just for fun. I was one of those kids that would just rant. And you know how when you first get into personal development and you think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread and you want to tell the world about it? Yeah, that was one of those things. So I just wrote it on a WordPress, it was bensonblog.wordpress.com. And I pasted it. I positioned it as work experience in my resume, saying that oh, I was the founder of this thing. It's a blog for millennials on finance, business, and something like that. And I also mentioned that, oh, I handled marketing, social media outreach, and all that kind of stuff. So I made it sound like it was work experience, and it was like some sort of project. And just that thing alone was enough to get the employer's attention, and it was enough for them to take a look and see that, okay, this kid is not just a kid who studied and just assumed that he was entitled to something because he studied, but he actually did something. So that showed me that at least this kid has initiative to do something. So why don't we give him a chance?
Completely agree, man. Like from my experience as well, like when you create something or when you have like a project that you can show, that instantly sets you apart from everyone else who just has a degree or who just has good grades. So yeah.
Yes. And so the trick I would share with the Finance Nation is, if you are looking for a job in, let's say, marketing, I can only imagine my example works in marketing. If you have an Instagram page even that you share quotes on, or that you just create some wacky, just quote cards that you just create by Photoshop, even that alone is enough to get your foot in the door, because that's also what I did. I just put entrepreneur quotes, and I grew a page to like 1,000 followers. It was just follow, unfollow, follow, unfollow, follow, unfollow. That's all I did. We thought we were gonna sell a t-shirt lifestyle brand, but we never did it. But that was also enough to get their attention. One of the employers even told me that if you want to join us, you need to absorb your directorship in that company, because I did register it as a trade name at the office. It was a sole proprietorship.
Yeah, like I completely agree. Like now, especially now, employers are actually looking you up and Googling your name and looking you up on Facebook and Instagram, because they really want to know who's coming into their company, and their biggest assets are their employees. And that's I think it's really important to be intentional with social media and what we post out there. In the process of getting a new job, a job that's completely unrelated to your field of study, did you encounter any struggles or problems, and what was it like?
Okay. For my very first job, it wasn't a challenge, actually. Finding the job wasn't challenging. There was a few interviews I had to go through. I still remember one. It was so stupid. Oh my god. I won't say which company it was. I was applying for a digital marketing role, and the guy, because I didn't really study marketing enough at that point, so the guy asked me, "Oh, what can you do to increase conversions on a page?" So I remembered watching this video once that Ramit was interviewing Noah Kagan. And Noah Kagan was saying something like, whenever he visits any website, he always scrolls down to the footer to check which year was the blog copyrighted. Like copyright 2019 or 2020, right? Because that's just a thing that he does to know how up to date whoever runs the site is. And I literally said that one of the best ways you can increase your conversions was to update your copyright date. I was like, what the hell was I thinking? So I was like, okay, that was an embarrassment. So that was actually the struggle. Wasn't so much getting the interviews. The struggle was knowing what the hell you were talking about. I would say that was the struggle. But looking back, the job that I managed to get eventually was the one that paid the most. They were quite open, and I also want to share with the nation. The people think that startups don't pay well, but I found that to be completely the opposite. My entire career my first 2 jobs has been in a startup, and as long as you pick startups that are well funded, they tend to pay above average rates. So I'm willing to share numbers here. When I hear a lot of fresh graduates complain that they can only make around 2.5K on average for their very first job, even in Klang Valley, I didn't believe it until I found out it was actually kind of normal. But also depends on which industry you're in. I always advise people on their first job to look for a job that pays at least 3,000 at the barest minimum. Even Bang Nagara agrees that a single person should make at least 2.7. So just aim for 3. Just shoot for 3. My first job was 3.5K basic with 1K bonus, I think. That was the very first one. And the job was fine. The job was essentially content marketing. I had to do content marketing here and there. It was good. I built a lot of credibility doing that, because content marketing, what we did that time was link building. It was SEO. So our job was we had to create a piece of content and outreach to as many different publications as possible to publish that content. So if I managed to score even one, that media company itself was already credible or famous. So it was like Tech in Asia, it was International Business Times, and all these kind of big names. You can see them in LinkedIn. So I managed to get those, and those definitely boosted my resume as time went on. But as I started doing more and more marketing and started dabbling with SEO, started dabbling with Facebook, started dabbling with email marketing and all that stuff, I just realized I didn't like to deal with the software and the platforms. It can get really frustrating. Sometimes you don't know where to click. Sometimes you click, and especially I hate QA, especially when you have to double check and triple check why this small technicality screwed up the entire campaign. I hated that. So eventually I just pivoted to just wanting to do the writing. So that's how I ended up becoming a copywriter.
Yeah, I know how you feel, man. So going back to the point of fresh grads complaining that they can only make 2.5K, and you would advise at least 3K. And yeah, I would agree in that. But what would you advise to these fresh grads when they're entering the job market? And although we know that right now it's an employee's market, there's more demand for good labor and skill. What would you advise people to actually get that 3K? Going into the interview, positioning themselves right, because look, they're going up against interviewers who do this for a living, and they are skilled at employing people at the lowest possible wage so that they could get more margin for their company. So what would you advise to people going into the interview and actually getting paid what they're worth?
What I would always suggest is this. First off, find out what is it that you want to do. What do you actually foresee yourself? Maybe you have no idea what you enjoy doing just yet because it's still too early on in your career, but at least have an idea of what you're interested in. I like this saying which says, without a goal, you can't score. So unless you know exactly what you want, it's going to be very challenging to craft your resume, to message something in such a way that it fits that thing. I always hear a lot of fresh grads or even just job hunters in general complain or say that, what, I have to tailor my resume to every job? That takes so much work. But okay, then the hack I can give you is, don't tailor it for the job, tailor it for the industry. At least know what industry or what kind of thing that you're going to do. Just tailor it to that. So if you said you wanted to get into marketing, all your work experience, no matter how unrelated it is, should be focused on getting sales or getting leads and that kind of stuff. Just speak the industry and just speak to the industry's language and what they are looking for. Because if you don't do that, you just look like another lazy applicant who didn't even try. So that's the first thing. Understand what you want to do. Second is, you want to always vie or go towards the more faster growing industries, or the industries that are historically known to pay more. So I asked a question recently on my Facebook, and they told me that IT, so apparently IT is marketing or anything that's online, that one pays very well right now. Consulting, oil and gas, and a bunch of others. So what are the traditional industries that are known to pay more? And then third, when you go into the interview, make sure that your resume is rock solid. Make sure that your resume is damn persuasive when you send it in. And then once they invite you, wait, let me recap. You send in the resume, you get their attention, they invite you in for the interview. When you show up for the interview, make sure that you answer the questions, but always pay attention to a few things. Because you're a fresh grad, you have no history of salary just yet. This is actually a good thing. So they cannot, they cannot mark you down or tag you down to a specific range yet. You can determine the range. So what I always recommend is, you go in. As you go in, you research first as to what is the average pay for that particular role in the industry. You can look at Glassdoor. You can look at PayScale. You can even ask friends in recruitment companies like Hayes or I think Michael Page is one of them as well. They also release data like that. Find out what is the range, and then you come in. And if they pull tricks like, well, if you don't have experience, how can you expect to be paid that much? And then you can say, well, these roles specifically state also that you don't need experience to start off with, or these are the ranges that the market is paying for. And I believe that I fulfill the requirements that you're looking for, as in a fresh graduate and etc. I have a degree, etc., etc. I believe it's only fair that I get paid within this range. The keyword is within this range. Yeah. So that is how I would give general advice for the general audience on how you can start.
Cool. And I think employers are really interested in you as a person, because right now there's just so many people out there with just qualifications on paper. But once they get to know you and what you're actually interested in, be it music, sports, or anything else, then that sets yourself apart.
You always want to find a way to stand out, because it's not so much standing out that the recruiter or the HR person is looking for. What they're really looking for is an applicant that is willing to put in a little bit more extra effort than the other person. That is what I've realized to be the case. So as long as you're willing to put in a bit more effort, you immediately stand out, because a lot of people are really lazy. You would be surprised.
Yeah.
A lot of people will just send anything and just expect a job. Like they'll send anything and just expect a job. So as long as you put in a little bit more effort, you'll stand out. So even that a short video that you mentioned, that also works as well.
What would you advise to someone who they're not sure when they're ready?
Okay, I think there's two answers to this question. The first answer is you're never ready. You're never ever ready. So I always ask parents who have kids, right? I always ask them, when do you know that you're ready to have a kid? And they all answer me the same. Can you guess what it is?
You never know.
Yeah, you never know. You're never ready. You're never ready for stuff like that. If you ask most people who become managers at a young age, they all say the same thing. You're never ready. You just have to, you just accept the thing. Like if there's an opening role for a manager role, you just say yes, and then you just jump in. That's all you do. So that is the case even when it comes to applying for jobs that you don't have experience in. So a lot of people will be surprised that more and more companies are actually willing to take on freshies with no experience, especially startups. They are more and more willing to take on these people simply because, number one, they cannot expect you to have experience to begin with. And number two, they always have the same thing. They always say the same thing. You don't need to have experience as long as you're willing to learn, as long as you're hungry, then they're willing to take you on. That's always the case. I think that's exactly what you experience as well, right?
Yeah. So it's more like, especially like big startups or like well-funded startups, they have their own systems. And, the thing is, all like the skill set and the knowledge, they can train you and they can give it to you. But the one thing they can't give you is the attitude to learn and the willingness to learn.
Yes, exactly. So I believe anyone who's even listening to this podcast right now, you already fall in that bucket. So if you're the kind of person who listens to podcasts or watches educational YouTube videos or stuff like that, just know that you're a weirdo. Okay, we all here, we are weirdos. We're different. So just the very fact that you do that means that you're already in that category. So as long as you can show, the keyword here is show, that you have that thing, that you are willing to learn, that you are a learning machine, then you're good to go. In most cases, these companies are more than willing to take you on, as long as you're willing to do that. Because you'll be surprised. There are actually a lot of people who are not like that. There are a lot of people who don't want to learn. For them, they believe learning stopped at university. So I don't think you have anything to worry about for that. And also, one more thing. When companies say that they are looking for minimum 2 years experience or minimum 7 years experience, just know that when they say that, what they really mean is this is their dream candidate. And just so you know, most dream candidates don't exist. They don't. So the very first job I applied for, they literally said minimum 1 or 2 years experience. I had 0. I still got it. The next job said 3 years experience. No, wait, it was 4 years experience. I got 2. I got in. The next job was 7 to 10 years experience. I had 2.5 years experience. I got it. So all those things don't apply, by the way, just so you know. So whenever people write that, they're just talking about their dream candidate, which doesn't exist. As long as you talk to them like a human and show them that you are the best, the only logical choice or the best choice that they can imagine having fun working with, and you're a cultural fit, then you're good to go.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like the minimum experience thing is it's probably to see who actually applies for it and see who is willing to just apply even they don't have that experience. So you
Yes.
talked about now we talked about your first job and you getting started, but now you're working your dream job. So what would you advise to our audience who are they have their first job, it's okay, but they're not really happy, maybe they want a bit more, maybe it's not really fulfilling work and they want to do something else, they want to get promoted faster?
Okay, the advice I would give anyone, because you mentioned the word dream job, right? So I think it's very important to know what exactly is your dream job. If you are just looking for money, then yes, opt for a better raise or just jump to any company that offers you more money. If what you're going after is money, and I know some people only care about money. They don't really care what they have to do to get it. As long as they get it, they're fine. But since we're talking about dream jobs, it's the same thing. If you don't have a goal, you can't score. So know exactly what kind of job you're looking for, in what industry, preferably in what company and what role. So my current job, senior sales corporate at Mind Valley, I actually bookmarked the page for 2 years.
Wow.
So I knew that I wanted this job for a long time. And I had imposter syndrome as well. I was like, am I any good? I kept looking at all these cover letters. Oh my God, these people are so amazing. Like, I don't think I'm that good. There was so much imposter syndrome about applying for this thing. And so first step is you got to know what you want. I heard before that they say people don't get what they want in life is because they don't know what they want. So, oof. When I first heard that, I was like, oof. Okay, that's the first thing. Know what you want. And second is you just got to work towards that. You got to work towards that. Look for two things, I would always say. Even if you're stuck at your current job, try to get as much results as you possibly can and document it. One of the best ways to separate yourself whenever you show up for the next interview, for the next job at another company, at your dream job company, is you always want to show results in your previous company. So I understand some companies ask you to sign NDAs, but most companies don't. And the best way for you to do about that is just keep track of whatever you're doing. Even if you get 10% increase, if you increase somebody's sales by 10% or increase their lead flow by 10% or reduce turnover by 30%, doesn't matter. Just document it. So I think some companies, I'm not sure about your experience, do they ask you to send like a weekly report as to what are the things you did and what you achieved? Have you ever experienced that?
No.
No. Okay. So from my experience, the companies I worked for, the first one did, the second one didn't. So also depends. If you happen to have that, even better, you can always refer back to that. Second thing you can look out for is during company meetings. You want to look out for what did your team do? Because I'm pretty sure the team leader reports something, right? They report something during team meetings, or maybe they release some information through email about what our team managed to do over the last quarter or the last 6 months. So when they do that, just pay attention. Just keep note of whatever it was achieved, and this is the key word. You can write in the resume as I assisted in helping the company reduce turnover rate by 60%. So it may not be directly you, but you helped out in that regard. And you saw how the whole thing worked also. So at least you can have some input when you go to the next interview. So that's what I would recommend.
Cool. When you were younger, what were you taught about money?
Ooh, yes. We get to the good stuff. What was I taught about money? Okay. I don't remember the words, but I just remembered the overall belief, which is that I think the lighting is better here. Okay, which is that money is scarce. Even until today, actually, I was surprised until today. My parents still tell me that you should be so lucky you have a job. Like job scarcity. Money is scarce. The people who got rich were lucky. I always heard that a million times, and I agree that luck plays a role. It always plays a role. Anyone who admits that they're successful without luck is lying. So luck plays a role, but not literally like a lotto or like a jackpot thing. No, it's literally the harder you work, the more opportunities you get, then you'll strike it. It always tends to happen that way. So yeah, I would say it's money is scarce, jobs are scarce, and you should be so. What else? What else? Let's see. Oh, the rich people are lucky. Rich people are greedy. I mean, like, Jesus. Almost every single inspirational video I see on Facebook now always paints the rich guy as a douche. I do not know why. You know what I mean?
Really? On my Facebook video, it's just like rich guys who, yeah, I guess douche. Yeah.
No. I mean the inspirational ones. They're like, be grateful for what you have, or like, a girl is shocked when boyfriend doesn't give her what she wants. Oh, you never give me what I want, and then she goes meets a rich guy, and then the rich guy will give her everything, but never gives her time, never gives her respect. And then the lesson, the moral of the story, be grateful for what you have, blah blah blah. It's like, why is it they paint rich people as douches in every single one of these videos? I just don't know why. So even something as subtle as that really paints and limits you as to how you think about money when you grow up. And that's exactly what I experienced growing up.
Yeah, definitely. Like, that stereotype image of, that guy in the sports car, and immediately you think that this guy must have like inherited it from his dad, or like if it's a woman, like, oh, she must be a gold digger and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, all that kind of stuff. So it's like, oh my god, the tropes are everywhere. Actually, I still think one of the best ways to really know how people really think about certain stereotypes is you want to look at all the viral sites. So you want to look at, I won't name names, but everyone knows what are viral sites that sensationalize everything just for the sake of clicks. And you will always see the same stereotypes. You'll always see pretty women are shallow, or the exceptional case is, oh, this pretty woman feeds the poor at night, something like that. So it's like the complete opposite of what they think. Or rich people are douches, and then everyone will comment like, oh, the rich are greedy, they always step on poor people to get to where they are, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Like, money's like, it's just a tool, right? It helps you do things, and it amplifies who you really are. So if you're a douchebag, you'll be a douchebag if you make money, and if you're a nice person, then you're gonna give back more. So, now in your position, how has your belief about money changed, and what did you have to go through or experience to change that belief? Because we all know that our beliefs and ideas, from especially the ones that were taught to us when we were young, are the strongest things that we cling on to. So how has your belief changed, and what was the process like? What did you have to go through?
Ooh, okay. I would say the first fundamental shift that I went through in order to make more money was I really had to stop believing that I should be so lucky to have a job. I think that was the first big one that I went through, because I started seeing. It was the first time in my life that I started noticing peers and friends that were in their mid-20s, and they were making 10K, 20K, 13K. They were like, holy shit. And I grew up in a household where, like, they never dreamt of hitting those numbers. They thought that you can only hit those numbers in your 50s. Okay, so that was the household I grew up in. So the first thing I had to go through was, you should be so lucky to have a job. The truth of the matter is, right now it is an employee's market, as you mentioned earlier. But it is, the next thing I would say, it is always a top performers market. It is always a top performers market. As long as you can deliver results, as long as you know how to communicate your value, you shouldn't be worried about not getting a job. You can always get a job, maybe not the one you want, but you can always get one. No problem. You should. So the whole job scarcity thing was the first thing I had to go over. Second thing I had to go over was understanding the difference between value and price. So this was one thing that I had to get over. Once I started to make more money, I started paying for food delivery services like GrabFood. So I ate GrabFood like nearly every day, and I was honestly very guilty about it, because I kept asking my friends that were spending money on food. I was like, hey man, how much do you spend on food? How much do you spend on food? Right? Everyone's answers were less than mine, and then I was like, why? Then why can't I spend lesser? Because I grew up in a household that was very frugal. I know that I can survive on less than 20 ringgit a day for food if I so choose. I can eat mixed rice, jat fan 3 times a day if that's what it took, because that's what I did in the beginning. But as I started to make more money, I could afford these things, right? So now, because I work from home mostly, it's already 11:30. Let me check my phone. Let me order something. Uh, ask my girlfriend what she wants, and then okay, order it, and then wait for it to be delivered to the doorstep. Go get it, sit down, eat, repeat the same thing for dinner. So that's what I did. But I had to understand when I say value and price is that I started to realize if I ate nowadays, if I eat something, I would say lesser quality, let's say they use cheaper ingredients or stuff like that, I could literally feel the effects immediately. I would feel more groggy. I would feel more agitated. I would feel more full, but I'll just feel more groggy. But when I eat more high quality food like organic stuff and all that kind of stuff and salads, never in a million years would I thought I would eat salads, but I do. Okay. But once I started eating that stuff, then I realized, yeah, actually, as much as this thing is boring as hell to eat sometimes, it's good for my health and it's good for my long term being. Oh yeah, one thing I realized that was really effed up when I first realized it. Do you ever wonder why the wealthy people pay so much attention to their fitness?
Because, like, like the saying, health is wealth. Like, they can't. I think someone would rather be healthy and
Uh huh.
broke than rich and unhealthy. Because if you're healthy and you're broke, you could
Uh huh.
you could actually do things to make money.
Uh-huh.
But if you're unhealthy
Okay.
and you're
Uh huh.
rich, there are only so many things, only so many treatments that you can get.
Okay. Okay. That's also one part of it. But the thing that I found out that blew my mind was this. I was talking to my dad once, and then he told me that, oh, now that you're making so much more, you should start taking care of your health more. And I'm like, okay, okay. And then the next thing he said was the one that blew my mind. He said like, because if you don't take care of your health, how can you continue to make so much money? I was like,
Right.
okay, okay, now I know why. Because I always notice people that they pay attention to money first after they hit a certain level. Then they started going to the gym. Then they started doing all this stuff. Then they started eating supplements. Then they started eating salads. Like I thought, like, is this lifestyle creep? Are they just doing this because other wealthy people do it? But then I realized, oh, now I know why. It's because they want to make sure they're in tip-top position so they can continue to make more. Because if they get sick, it's a very expensive day.
Mhm.
It's a very expensive day if they get sick. That's what I found out. I was like, okay.
So now that you're earning a lot more money, there's a saying that says it's not just how much you earn, but how much you keep. So how do you organize your finances, and how do you make sure that you're not suffering from lifestyle creep, or you're not spending all the money that you earn?
Can I be blunt with you here?
Please.
Honest? Okay. So for the longest time since I started working 3 years ago in the industry, I genuinely thought that because of my frugal upbringing, I could live on any amount of income. That was literally what I thought. That I should, right? Because I grew up in a household of 6 people, and we grew up middle class. Not to give specific numbers, we're the kinds of people who never bought anything branded. We never went to H&M. We never went to Uniqlo because branded equals expensive.
Mm-hmm.
My dad always scoffed at Starbucks. I never drank Starbucks. I never bought clothes. It was all hand-me-downs from my cousins and stuff like that. So, and we also went to From Six because it was free. So we grew up very frugal. The only reason I managed to come to KL to study was because my dad insisted that he didn't want his son to be a mass comm graduate. So he asked me to study law instead. So okay, I said, since you're willing to pay and you saved up your EPF to do it and your money to do it, so okay, sure. Because I mean they do save some amount for kids' education now, because that's how parents are taught. So at least they did that. So that's the only reason I managed to come here. It was a very expensive 3 years, but it was okay. Anyways, so when I first started when I first started working, I literally thought I could survive on any level of income. So I was very frustrated that by the end of the month, I could not save anything. Because remember, I told you the first salary was 3.5K basic and it was 1K bonus, right? So that was 4.5K. So after taxes and EPF, I think I was left with around 3.9 or something like that, somewhere around that ballpark. So I was very frustrated. How come I couldn't save anything? And then because I kept everything as low as humanly possible. I kept my room is like 400 plus a month. I rent a room, by the way. I don't rent an apartment. I rent a room. I don't subscribe to Spotify. I don't buy a car. And so I kept everything very minimal, but I couldn't save anything. So I didn't understand why. Then my next job, increased pay. But again, I couldn't save anything. I could save 1 month, and the next month it was gone because maybe it was some car repair that I had to do, or I had to fly back for Chinese New Year, or it was something unexpected I had to pay for. So I couldn't save anything for 2 years straight. And it was really starting for 2.5 years. And it was starting to piss me off. Only after I landed in my current job, I could finally save. So I say this to tell the finance nation that sometimes it's really not the fact that you cannot cut back too much. Sometimes it's really a matter of an income issue. So if you really cut back so much to the point that you feel your lifestyle is, reduced, damaged, constrained. It feels like you're constrained or you're stressed out about money almost every single day.
Like you're pinching pennies.
Like you're pinching pennies. Then it's really an income problem. So you should really look into increasing your income more than anything. The breakthrough happened for me was when I spoke to a friend who was a dato, and I told him my story. I told him like I was willing to openly tell him how much I was taking home, how much was I spending, and everything. And then he told me, okay, so you're telling me for the last 2.5 years, you have been trying to save money, but you couldn't, correct? I said, yes. Okay, yes. So now you have two choices. Do you want to continue to save more money, or do you want to earn more? And then a part of me was still like, I should still continue to try to save more money. Maybe I could cook at home. Maybe I could like use 2-ply toilet paper instead of 3-ply toilet paper. I don't know, something like that. All the frugal measures. And then he says, no, listen to yourself. You have tried this for 2.5 years, but you cannot save. So do you want to save more or you want to earn more? Then I finally said, earn more. Exactly. So then he more or less gave me permission to earn more. So that's what I did. So how do I manage my finances? So because I finally have an ample amount of money to finally do something with, like to like put them around and stuff, then this is how I manage it. I always take account of part of my fixed expenses. These are the things that are more or less predictable. So I wouldn't even count petrol for me as predictable because it really depends on where I go because I work from home most of the time. I don't even count my touch and go reloads to be predictable because it also depends on when I take the train. But the things I know for certain are fixed, I count them at one particular measure, and then I count the rest. So I put a fixed amount. This is how much I spend normally. And then my unfixed amount, I should at least have a certain budget. And then after that, I look at how much I think I should save. How much I think I should save, I always calculate it as at least 20%. So right now I'm saving around 20+%. It could be higher. But if I were to do it any higher, it'll be a lifestyle change. So I would rather not. So some people say that when it comes to managing your finances, you should save first before you spend, right? I believe that's true also. But you must always have a number of how much you want to save. I don't believe that if you have fixed expenses and unfixed expenses, that after you spend it as much as you want at the end of the month, then you save. No, you must always send the money out of your account to another account for savings first, and then you start spending the rest. So that once you know you're gonna, let's say you realize it's 5 days before payday and you're like close to zero, then you know like, oh shit, I overspent. So I need to jump to my savings account, pull out that money and use it more scarcely until payday. So that's what I do.
Going back to, when you met your friend, the Dato, and, he said, do you want to save more money or earn more money? And you decided to earn more money, of course. But, a lot of people think that, he's saying it like it's so easy, so some people are, stuck in that salary, whatever salary they're not happy with. And, how did you make more money?
How did I make more money was largely a matter of two things. One was I just started to look for another job because I know that even like $1,000 or $2,000 extra a month could mean some difference. So that's what I did. And the second thing I did was I just started accepting more freelance gigs because I do get freelance requests here and there. do more, to do stuff with. And I also started to, because I already have a relationship with a person who runs a workshop business. So I said, okay, maybe I should do more. Because for the longest time, I really didn't want to sabotage my lifestyle. I didn't want to hurt my lifestyle. I preferred to do less things for more money, just like everyone does. And and not every ringgit is made equally. Some ringgits require you to be at a certain place, to do certain things that maybe you just don't enjoy. So I was that kind of person that I just didn't want to take on these things. But after I heard him, after he said that I should earn more and I took it, then I just started accepting more and more gigs that came my way. So I was willing to sacrifice my lifestyle a little bit just so I can make the difference to feel more financially secure. Because can you imagine 2.5 years of working and have zero savings? I didn't have 3 months expenses. I didn't have 2 months expenses. I didn't have 1 month expenses. It was like zero for 2.5 years. And for some people, this may be their reality for years. Maybe they've been living like this for a long time. But for me, I just felt very insecure because growing up, my parents could save no matter what, no matter how much they were making, they were able to save. So I felt guilty of not being able to do that.
Agree. And it always takes, some extra effort, like working on your side gig after work. A lot of people think that, a lot of people want, something for nothing. And
yes.
Like they have to understand that at least initially, you're going to have to put in that extra effort and that extra sweat in. And maybe one day, if you're good enough, then you can really work less and have more. But for now, especially when you're young, is when you want to put in that effort and work harder.
Yes. Oh yeah, on that topic, right. I was actually one of the weirdos at age 23 that was worried about work-life balance. I asked my seniors like about, work-life balance, I don't want to be that guy that works forever when I'm in my 30s and I'm never seeing my kid and blah, blah, blah. I was worried about those kinds of things. But now I just don't think about it anymore. I don't know why. It just doesn't occur to me. I guess it was some unfound fear that I had about working too much and missing things. But I believe as long as you as long as you schedule in some time, like for example, if you worry about your relationships, or let's say your girlfriend, if you guys live together, you shouldn't worry about that. I mean, you can more or less, you're gonna see her every day. As long as you have dinner or lunch together, you're probably okay. And always just listen to her when she talks. That's the fundamental. Your parents, because I'm here, I will call them every week, and that's what they expect.
Cool. Right. So Ben, our audience loves practical tips and things that they can implement. And on the channel, we don't want to just be an information channel, but we want to actually give people ideas on what they can do right after they watch our videos. So what is one thing that you bought recently that is under 100 ringgit that was of the most value to you?
The first thing that comes to mind is Bluetooth wireless earphones. Yeah, those were a game changer because I could listen to things without the cords and all that stuff. I would say that's it.
All right, cool. Bluetooth. Yeah, like I love listening to audiobooks and like audio programs. So I think that's invaluable. Like having Bluetooth, when you're cooking, when you're driving, and
Yes.
All right. So what has been, one of the most worthwhile investments for you? You could be investing your time, your money, your effort.
Because, I just told you my story. I couldn't save shit until just a few months ago, until like half a year ago. And I'm still in the process of building my expenses fund, my 6 months expenses fund. So I want to build that up first before I even think about investing in anything else. But the thing that I did in terms of time and energy was literally just consuming courses left and right, watching YouTube videos left and right. And that's just what I did. I never saw it really as a chore for some reason. It just became a habit. Sometimes I would prefer to watch movies, but even now I'm very selective. Or even back then I was selective about watching movies. Some movies were just cash grabs, like Transformers. Like, no, I don't want to watch that. So only if it was an Oscar-winning movie, then I'll pay attention. So I spend most of my time watching YouTube videos, courses, podcasts, audiobooks, and I just did that over and over again. But the one thing that I missed, that I didn't do enough, was implementation. I just should have done something, but because my day job didn't give me that outlet to do it, I just didn't do it. I didn't have the motivation to do it on my own. So that was the only thing I missed out on.
What advice would you give to a driven college student who is beginning to enter the real world and enter the work life? What advice should they follow and what advice should they ignore?
Ooh, okay. What advice should they follow? Okay. I'm pretty sure the most common advice people will give at a graduation commencement speech is follow your passion and the money will follow. They always say this. All the entrepreneurs will say the same thing. I would agree as long as the passion is monetizable and has a sizable audience. But I want to give another caveat. Not all money is made equal. You are Ellie, you're in the training space right now. I'm in the training space right now. We know that there are many other businesses that could make much more than this industry, just by its very nature. Financial services makes a boatload of money. What's the other one? Management consulting pays a boatload of money. Oil and gas pays a boatload of money. So not all money is made equal. So actually, that's one of the most challenging things you will ever face when you start out, because you will start thinking, do I optimize for money or do I optimize for something I actually enjoy doing? And that's really up to you to decide. It's very hard because sometimes I still struggle between the two. Sometimes it's just a marketing thing. Like, do I market on video because everyone is doing that? Or do I market using writing because that's my strength? But I know if I do writing, fewer people will see it. So it's really a matter of self-awareness to know that, do I just do this because it makes more money? Or do I do this because I actually enjoy it, but I could possibly make less? So that's the first thing. Figure out what is your passion, make sure there is an audience, make sure you can make a living doing it, and then just go after it. I believe as long as you can make money in the beginning, your parents will stop nagging at you. Isn't that what everybody wants? Okay, as long as your parents stop nagging at you in the beginning years, as long as you can make money. Because the truth is, your parents may not admit it, the only reason they sent you to college was so that you can get a job that pays you well. Sometimes they even tell you, the job doesn't matter, it's the experience. That's another BS trope that I completely disagree with.
If it doesn't pay well, then they're like, oh, you should try another job.
Yeah, exactly, right? And also the other thing I really disagree with is I believe you can get paid well and get experience. I mean, there's a balance to be struck. I knew a guy in my previous company who told me that he actually believed in this. He followed it through. He was willing to take jobs that underpaid, and he was willing to take jobs that underpaid because it provided experience. And then now he's in his early 30s. He has kids, and you know what he tells me? He tells me that thing was BS. I followed that advice, didn't help, because he continued thinking like that until now. So that's just the wrong way to think about it. So you should not follow that. The experience, maybe your first job, if you really have no options, sure. But your second and third, you better get off fast. Because the one thing they never tell you about, especially salaries, is that your starting salaries in your career actually do matter a lot later on in life. So if you started off at, let's say, $4,000 a month, the likelihood of you scoring 10,000 is much earlier, because that's just how it works. If you stay at the same company, maybe they'll give you like a 20% pay raise each year. If you do that, you can get there much sooner compared to if you started off at 2,000. You're like halfway there. So the pay you get is actually very important. So don't believe in that bullshit that experience matters more than money. Like, no, don't believe in that stuff.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
So you're coming back to, and I also like how the idea of not all money is made equal is coming up a lot for our younger audience, or the people who they really don't know, what they want to do. And we talk about skills, but they're really like, I'm not good at anything. I just don't know what to do, and I don't know what I'm good at. What would be your advice to them?
Okay, there's two answers to this. There's always two answers to many things, I realize. The first thing is, are you sure you don't know what you're good at? Because there might be some indications before. Did your teachers say that you were good at writing? My teacher told me that before. But I just took it as, anyone who's good at English should be good at writing, right? So I never paid much attention to it. What else did your friends say that you were good at? Or what else did your friends come to you for advice for? These are all tiny indications just to point you into the right direction. And I believe some people are actually born naturally with certain gifts. I know some people say like, "Oh, talent is bullshit. It's all skills. If you learn hard enough, you will get it." Like, no, I've asked. I even asked my uncle. I even asked parents before, and they have said up front, two kids grew up in the same environment. One person is very, very talkative, uh, very more than willing, very shameless. The other one isn't. So these are character traits that are very leverageable for certain skills. So you have a certain natural gift, right? Second thing is, if you don't know what you want, you have to explore. You literally have to explore, or at least, maybe you don't have to get into the job per se. Just go through online. Actually, one of the best indicators you can find out is if your Google search history is turned on and your YouTube search history is turned on. Look back at everything that you watched. Is there any indication of anything? Maybe there is some level of interest in something that is an industry right now. And the third thing is, I heard this quote that I loved before, which is, your 20s is the time that you find out what you don't want to do, and your 30s is the time that you do what you want to do, something like that. So, your 30s is that you find out what you want to do. Well, which is why I heard some women say that they find men in their 30s more attractive because they know what they want in their careers or in their romantic relationships or stuff like that, right? So it all boils down to self-awareness. So, like for example, my story was I found out what I didn't like, and that's how I found out what I liked, right? So that was my story. And I think that very question, the underlying assumption is that they feel like they're in a rush to figure out something.
Yeah.
And I would say the fact that you're listening to this podcast tells me that you are one of those people, or you could potentially be that because you're ambitious. You want to be a millionaire by 30. That's one of my goals as well. And you feel like you're in a rush. Sure, I said it's fine to be in a rush, but do not rush into a mistake. Do not do that. Do not get into something right away just because you think it's something that you should be doing. And if you just hate it and you really cannot do it, you should really jump. Some people actually don't jump because job scarcity. Some people jump because actually some people jump just because they're lazy or they can't commit. So you have to be self-aware enough to know that. Some people jump into one thing, into another thing because of shiny object syndrome. So some also do that for that reason. So you have to be very self-aware of that. Sorry, I can't give you an answer. So the answer is you have to find out what you don't like right away. And then that's how you narrow it down more and more.
No, yeah, I think that's a great answer. Like, just if you really don't know what to do, just dip your feet into a lot of things that you think you might be interested in. And eventually, once you've tried enough things, you'll realize that you'll find out what you don't like. So at least you can start there. And that's a good start, finding out what you don't like.
I think a great analogy for that is because of my girlfriend. Actually, I'm the kind of guy that would eat the same thing from the same restaurant every day if I can.
Me too.
Automate my choices, right? Yeah. But then I heard that women love adventure, they love outgoing guys and all that kind of stuff, right? So when I order the same thing 3 times in a row, she gets very bored and she says, "Can we try something else?" So in a way, finding out what you want to do is exactly like trying a different restaurant every time. So think about it. Your favorite place that you ate was a stranger to you before. Maybe it just so happened you were there by luck, or you heard reviews about it and you wanted to try it out, and now it's your favorite restaurant that you go to every single day or every single weekend. So you're finding a passion is the same thing like trying out restaurants. So that's the analogy I can give.
All right, Ben. So before we wrap up, what is one piece of advice that you would give to all young people? And imagine this piece of advice is seen by millions of people. What would you say?
Oh. The first default one I was thinking of is not all money is made equal, and you have to pay attention to what it is that you want to do and how you can make money from it and how you can live from it. You want to focus on skills in your 20s. I honestly believe in that. That was how I got to where I am. Skills. You want to focus on skills that you know would lead to returns down the road. So, for example, I do copywriting. I learned marketing. Marketing is a skill that I don't think any company would ever stop using because any company wants more customers. So that's an evergreen skill. There are actually, I believe most things in life can be solved with just skills. So the whole skill of resume writing, that's another one. How do you negotiate your salary? How do you look for a job? How do you hunt for a job? There's always a certain way to do it. And those are all skills that you can learn. You mentioned earlier about people hearing advice that they should drop ship and trading online. I think if people are chasing vehicles, I call them vehicles, because these are all things that is hot right now. So drop shipping or trading stocks. Unless you go in looking to learn a particular skill out of it, you may be disappointed. Because the fact of the matter is, the people who succeed at these things build certain skills that are very useful for these kinds of, activities, for these kind of activities. So you want to learn to build up skills, and preferably high income skills. You can just Google that and find out what that is for you.
Yeah, and skills that solve big problems. The bigger problems you solve, the more you get paid for it.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. All right. So Ben, where can our audience find you online?
Okay, so your audience can find me online. They can add me on Facebook. Just go to Facebook and type Ben Carlin Sim. Carlin is Carlin Sim. Or you can go to my blog at bensimblog.com. I haven't updated it yet, but I'm sure by the time this thing comes out, I'll have something that you can check out.
Yeah, definitely. For everyone tuning in, Ben has some awesome content on his Facebook. A lot of the topics that we talked about, he covers in his Facebook. So things like negotiating your salary, things about getting your first job, and all his experience. So definitely do check him out. So thank you so much for being on the show, Ben. Really appreciate it. And I hope you enjoyed the show.
Yes, I definitely enjoyed being on here. Let's do another round if your audience loves this one.
Yeah,
sure. We can talk about something else.
Okay, sure. All right. So I hope you enjoyed that interview session with Ben. Thank you for staying till the end and becoming a part of the Stay Till the End Club. I hope you got some practical advice that you can start applying today so that you can start having more control over your finances. We're going to do a lot more of these interviews in the future. So if you have someone that you would like us to interview, let us know down in the comments below and tag them if they have a YouTube channel so that way we can start interviewing them and get that awesome video to you. If you found this video helpful, make sure you give us a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow and we would really appreciate it. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss our videos every week, and click on that bell icon so that you get notified and that these videos come straight to you. But until then, my name is Edley and I'll see you in the next video.